In light of Jesse Puljujarvi's contract with Pittsburgh recently being terminated, I decided to, like we did a few months ago, talk about some recent draft busts. In this video, we'll go over things such as the hype for each prospect, why they fell short, and what the outlook is for them moving forward. But before we do, if you're new to my channel, I'd love it if you could hit the subscribe button for more NHL themed content. And with that, here are 4 relatively recent first round picks that now look like busts. Shortly after William Nylander was drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2014, his younger brother Alex was the next in the family to follow in their father Michael's footsteps. Alex was looked at as a player that would integrate perfectly into Buffalo's lineup at the time, considering that by 2016 the Sabres had recently drafted Jack Eichel a year prior. Adding Nylander into the mix was thought of as a win-win. While displaying speed, quick hands, and a natural offensive prowess, Nylander padded his hockey resume while playing for the Mississauga Steelheads. Throughout the 2015-16 campaign, the forward recorded 75 points in 57 games played, with 28 of those being goals. Unfortunately though, as former GM Tim Murray would soon learn, Nylander's game wasn't exactly able to translate to the NHL level as his brothers did. Over the span of the next 3 seasons, Nylander spent his time mostly playing for Buffalo's AHL affiliate, the Rochester Americans. And those NHL games that he did play for Buffalo, well, after suiting up for all 19 of them, he was only able to notch 6 points throughout. Even at the AHL level for Buffalo, the younger Nylander was only able to come up with 87 points throughout the 165 games he played for Rochester. Once Nylander found himself traded to Chicago, the pattern pretty much repeated. He would play a little for an NHL club, get sent down to the minors, show what true mediocrity looks like, and get moved once again to a new team. Pittsburgh, Columbus, Toronto have all taken a shot at trying to bring out the talent that Nylander was previously thought of possessing. However, at the start of this season, Nylander was given a chance to possibly revamp his career alongside his older brother William in Toronto. Unfortunately though, after appearing in 5 games and failing to record a single point, he was put on waivers and sent down to the Toronto Marlies. Thus far, the forward has appeared in 40 games and has recorded an underwhelming 31 points throughout. When Filip Zadina first appeared on the radar of many NHL scouts, it wasn't the first time the Halifax Mooseheads had produced such a highly regarded prospect. Nathan MacKinnon, Jonathan Drouin, and Nikolai Ehlers are just a few amongst the plethora of the talent the club has produced. A gifted, agile skater, Zadina impressed spectators with his complete 200-foot game and quick shot release. Often compared to his fellow countryman David Pastrnak, Zadina tallied an impressive 44 goals in 57 games played for the Mooseheads. Therefore, after 82 total points on the season prior to draft day, Zadina placed 3rd in final rankings below Rasmus Dahlin and Andrei Svechnikov. However, once he was passed up on a few times, the Red Wings were thrilled at the time to select the forward 6th overall. Well, after making his NHL debut right away during the 2018-19 campaign, Zadina only made 9 appearances throughout. The majority of his time instead that season was spent playing for Detroit's AHL affiliate team. And really, this isn't uncommon for prospects at all to do so. However, once the trend continued into the following season is when concern began to take hold that Zadina may not be what the team expected. Despite the uncertainty surrounding Zadina's development, GM Steve Yzerman remained patient and gave Zadina multiple seasons and chances to live up to the expectations. After spending 5 seasons in Detroit's system and playing a good portion of games for the Grand Rapids Griffins, Zadina was traded finally to San Jose in 2023. The move for both parties actually made a lot of sense. Obviously, Yzerman knew there was no upside to keeping Zadina, and Sharks GM Mike Grier and his team were in the process of doing an extreme makeover. This involved shipping multiple core players out and dismantling the roster for draft picks. Obviously, it gave them Macklin Celebrini, but you get my point. Zadina gets playing time that amounts to 72 games and has 23 points to show for it. And really, this season was a huge opportunity for the former 6th overall pick. Zadina was healthy and also got to play some of those games within the top 6. Well, as most know watching this video, Zadina was unable to score another NHL contract and settled on returning overseas to suit up in Switzerland. Looking back today, one of Zadina's obvious hurdles was his inability to effectively manage the puck when he didn't have it, aka defense. He struggled to defend in most situations, from the man advantage to even strength. Zadina was easily the biggest draft bust that the Detroit Red Wings have ever seen. Not long after the New York Rangers sent out the historic letter to fans promising a rebuild, former GM Jeff Gorton didn't waste any time. Since the Rangers eventually moved from the 6th to 2nd spot in the draft selection process of 2019, it would ensure that they would receive a talented prospect in return. As it stood prior to draft day, the 2nd overall selection was projected to be Finnish forward Kaapo Kakko. One of the things that instantly set Kakko apart from his peers was his highly developed frame. At 6'2" and a few pounds shy of 200, Kakko used his size to his advantage and became known as a very tough opponent to try and take off the puck. Even though he also made waves with the Finnish national team, Kakko had most notably shattered a record while playing with Liga. With 22 goals, he was able to narrowly pass Alexander Barkov's previous record held of 21, and in result was the most by any draft-eligible player in league history. Therefore, knowing his size and the success he had while playing with grown men overseas, it was almost expected that Kakko would excel immediately in the NHL in his rookie year. Until he didn't. Kakko struggled to produce offensively from the start. While Jack Hughes also had an underwhelming debut campaign, he was able to find his bearings in the following season. Unfortunately for Kakko, his best season yet was the one in which he was able to put up 40 points in a full season's play. After giving him plenty of time to cook in the Big Apple, GM Chris Drury finally pulled the trigger on a deal that sent Kakko to Seattle earlier this season. Looking back today, despite being physically advanced, Kakko struggled to perfect his skating abilities, which really set him back, despite the fact that he appeared at a glance to be one of those tanks that can withstand 4 rounds of grueling playoff hockey. However, I think it's safe to say that he won't be competing in the Stanley Cup Finals anytime soon with the Kraken. Today, the Rangers stick out as a team that has struggled immensely to develop first-round talent, as Alexis Lafreniere, who was drafted in the following year first overall, has failed to take that next step forward as well, and has yet to have a point-per-game season. As I alluded to earlier, the 2015 NHL entry draft brought lots of talent to the forefront. Jack Eichel was just the tip of the iceberg, as Connor McDavid easily stole the show when it came to the hype, expectation, and the spotlight. And naturally, GM at the time, Peter Chiarelli, wanted to insulate the teenager with talent. Following McDavid's rookie campaign, Chiarelli went to work on scouting out who he believed would complement the prodigy. Interestingly, unbeknownst to him, McDavid's right-hand man to be had already been selected by this time in Leon Draisaitl.
Why are you so pissy, Leon? Why are you so pissy?
I'm not. I'm just answering your...
Yeah, you are.
Okay, he's a left shot, but you get my point. Even still, the projected top 5 selections were Austin Matthews, Patrick Laine, Jesse Puljujarvi, Matthew Tkachuk, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. However, there were some surprises that deviated from this assumption. Columbus, who had the 3rd selection, opted for PLD instead of Puljujarvi. Therefore, Chiarelli thought that he was still getting the cream of the crop per se in the Finnish forward. Instead of drafting Matthew Tkachuk, who would later go on to be instrumental in the Florida Panthers' first Stanley Cup win, he chose Puljujarvi. Needless to say, Puljujarvi, despite being given an ample amount of time to hone in his talent, wasn't able to capitalize on opportunity in Edmonton. Following multiple seasons of back and forth between the AHL and NHL, Puljujarvi was traded to Carolina in February of 2023. By this time, he had managed to record 10 or more goals on 3 different occasions with the Oil. Therefore, the Canes were hoping that there would be some untapped potential. Unfortunately, though, after playing in 17 games with the Hurricanes, he failed to tickle the twine and finished with only 2 assists to his name. Despite this, though, GM Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins decided to give the former 4th overall pick a chance in December of the same year. After producing just 13 points in 48 games played, Puljujarvi was placed on waivers by the Pens earlier this month. Puljujarvi seemed to throw some shade at the organization by claiming that it was a dead end for his career and that he wasn't satisfied with the treatment he received while in Pittsburgh. Regardless, he did find opportunity elsewhere in the AHL. After being given a PTO by the Charlotte Checkers, Puljujarvi had a strong debut performance and managed to have a couple of helpers throughout. However, looking back, it's absolutely fair to say that Puljujarvi hasn't even come close to living up to the hype of being a 4th overall pick. Matthew Tkachuk and Clayton Keller, for example, who were drafted after him, have morphed into franchise stars, and those drafted before him have made an impact as well. It will be interesting to see if Puljujarvi can secure an NHL call-up and roster spot there in the Sunshine State. In conclusion, I hope that you all enjoyed this video, and I apologize for not being as consistent with uploads as of late. However, if you'd like to get even more content from me, consider joining my Patreon. Even when I'm radio silent on YouTube, I'm still publishing monthly bonus content for my patrons. If you'd like to support me and my work, simply click the link below to get started. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.